right, welcome everybody. We're really glad to have you share this time with us. This is a unit that Carlos and I were collaborating together. I'm in the dining room and he is down the hallway in the office. And we both are 31-year AP English language teachers. We met in Miami. We moved to Seattle. We taught in South Korea. We moved to Colombia. Then we went back to Miami. And then we've been in Georgia for 20 years. So we teach at different high schools, but we collaborate together at home, which has been wonderful. So we are currently in Unit 5, and this was our Unit 2. So for those of you who started after Labor Day, this might be something that you could use. And we just call it an argument unit, but you'll see that we did it for Unit 2. So you'll see that we're introducing a lot of skills for those of you who are very interested in like skills-based learning. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off so you don't see me, so you can see the slides. And hopefully you can see the slides as a full on the screen. And if you can't, if the font is a little bit small, don't worry, you can download this as both a PowerPoint and a PDF. And later on when Carlos is talking, I'll put the link for the Google Drive in the chat, and that way people could just pull the material and I'll have the material in there as well. Okay, so we thought about cancel culture because it's sort of like the it term for 2020, actually 2019 into 2020. And so we started our units. This is a little bit of an overview of what we're going to go over tonight. So we wanted to define what is cancel culture. And then we had students do a collaborative activity where they analyzed texts about social media. And then we had them create a collaborative argument on social media, which was a visual essay. And Carlos is actually going to show some of his student models. Then we had an activity where they annotated an article and then they submitted that to us. And we had a podcast and an article that they read. So they took some notes. Then we did a timed write with them. And then Carlos is going to talk to you a little bit about how we're scoring these activities. All right, so we started the unit with talking about cancel culture. So we put this tweet up where this was actually from 2015, but Ed Sheeran was a little bit saucy to Nicki Minaj, and then everybody wanted to cancel Ed Sheeran as a result of his comments to Nicki Minaj about race. And so we start with the definition of cancel culture, and I just pulled it off dictionary.com, and it talks a little bit about calling out bad behavior, basically. And so we found these two quotes that are sort of a pro and a con cancel culture. So Kara Brown, I listened to her podcast for a couple of years and now she's moved on, but she's pro cancel culture. And her premise is if it's a director or a studio executive or a TV star, etc., and they act badly in public, fire them, cancel them, get rid of them, goodbye, because there's many people waiting in the wings that would love to have an opportunity. And these people who exhibit problematic behavior, they don't deserve to have public acclaim. Whereas novelist Matt Haig says the idea of pushing someone out because they've said or done something to be perceived offensive leaves no room for growth or learning. He describes cancel culture as anti-progress because it's anti-change. So we had a discussion on Zoom on the first day, and it was very robust and wonderful, and kids were going back and forth. So even before we got into the lesson, they already had opinions on cancel culture, which was quite wonderful. So then the next step is that we had them watch a video called An Explanation of Cancel Culture and Why It's Become Such a Popular Phenomenon. And then this is a funny video called What Cancel Culture Looks Like in the Middle Ages. And the way we thought we would do our presentation is we would present and Carlos will show some student models, then we'll take some questions, and then if there's time left over, we'll actually show you some of the sources, which are great, but you can also access those sources on your own. And then some of our main texts are this podcast from the New York Times Daily called Cancel Culture Part 1, and then the Atlantic Monthly had a pretty lengthy essay about how capitalism drives cancel culture. So this is a little hard to see, so I'll explain it, but I wanted to do a screenshot of how we had the kids collaborate. So in our district, we're not allowed to use breakout rooms, but we can have breakout areas. So what we did is in our Google Drives, we each made 5 folders, and then we put the documents into the folders. So we started with a document that said, start here, and the start here is, I actually let the kids pick their groups, and then Carlos grouped them, but we had a hyperlink that went directly to their folder. So that's how we were able to group them and get them into the folder to start the collaborative work together. This was the assignment. So it says 2.1 because we did this as unit 2, but again, it could be done as unit 2. So 1, 2, 3, unit 5 or unit 7, right? No, unit 8. So it's always the middle one. So we did introducing rhetorical analysis, introducing argument, introducing synthesis, and then our middle 3 units are practice with those concepts, and then the ends are mastery of. So that's how we're doing the 9 units in this shortened semester, because we started 3 weeks late. All right, so the first part that the kids are doing together is they're researching. So we came up with some sources that were kind of vetted. We, we watched them all the way through and made sure that they were school appropriate, but they are sophisticated because it is a college course. And we are looking specifically for the skills of quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. So hopefully they got that in the 10th grade. But if they didn't, this was a way that we could check their mastery of those concepts. So they were to view the sources, and then they were to do some research. Then the second part was application of what you learned. So this is where we started with the defensible thesis, and we brought in qualification. So up to this point, we had them do rhetorical analysis, so they weren't really taking a side, and now we're having them start with positions where they agree that cancel culture is overrated. See how we brought in one of those prompts from that the College Board has released, or culture is not overrated, or they could qualify and do a yes, but. So this is how we were introducing some of those initial concepts. So this is just a little screenshot of what the students' work looked like. Another thing we're having them do is put a value on notes. So as you can see, they watched a TED Ed video. It was very short, just 5 ways social media is changing your brain. It's a very interesting video. And then they had to take notes, and then they had to highlight the most important or most significant note in the box. And then when they moved on to their visual essay, those were some of the things that we heard. So we could see that they were taking notes, pulling them out, and then they were starting to use that verbiage in their discussions, which was, quite wonderful. These, as you can see these below, these are some of the sources that we had the kids view. So we clipped a movie called 8th Grade, which is just brutal and amazing if you can see it, but it's a little bit controversial. So we only wanted to show a clip. As I said, that TED Ed video, Hidden Brain. So they listened to a 24-minute podcast, and Carlos will talk a little bit more about that. We had a cartoon on social media. We had an article from the National Review because we wanted to make sure that we had, kind of left, right, center, that we had a variety of different sources. We had a TikTok that we found on YouTube from an up-and-coming star named Jeffrey Wright, who's now writing for, what's his name? The guy who's used to be on Saturday Night Live, Sean. I can't think of his name. Anyways, and then Unpacking TikTok, and that's from the Lawfare blog, and then why TikTok is so important. And that's just a blogger that's been around for many years named Gary Vaynerchuk. So these were the sources that the kids had to read, or they had to access, and then they had to do their defend and then their challenge in the chart. So this is Carlos's students' work. So we did some screenshots so that you can see as the kids working together. They had different color fonts so we could make sure that all the students in each group were contributing. You can see in the middle there, there's a chat going on so that we were monitoring their chats, we were monitoring their work, and this was quite a lot of work. And I mean, it was serious, it was interesting, and we were just popping back and forth in those folders as the kids were posting things. So we were monitoring our students as they worked, and they did a really terrific job. So now they moved on to the social media argument essay. So they had to return to their groups. They can use their phone cameras, they can record a Zoom session, they can host a Google Meet, or they can use Flipgrid where they connect some videos together. And they had up to 10 minutes because Flipgrid has just expanded the amount of time that they allow you to make videos. And so the final product was in Flipgrid. So this was an argument, a visual essay argument in Flipgrid. So it was quite easy for Carlos and I to grade because we had 5 groups in each of our classes. So we only had to watch 5 videos, and the kids did great. So this is the prompt. So we said, is social media overrated? They had to take a position whether you believe the term overrated should be applied to social media. As a group, create a well-developed video essay in which you explain your judgment, use appropriate evidence from your reading experience or observations to support your argument. You may use images, videos, clips, or clips from social media to support your argument. And then we use the argument rubric to grade their essay. So we're looking for a thesis that had a line of reasoning. We were looking to see that they not only provided evidence from their readings and observations and experiences, but they also had commentary. And was it, did it flow together? Was it organized? Was it collaborative? Was it practiced? Was it polished? And that was how they got the sophistication point. All right, so now Carlos is going to take over, and I'm going to go into the chat, and he's going to show you some of the student samples.
All right, let me, here I am. How you doing? All right, you know, but what I do want to add is it is a challenge teaching online in Zoom, so you have to work to get the kids' attention. And so, as you can see, social media and especially cancel culture, I think where they felt comfortable if they knew a little bit more about it than we did. And that gave them a lot of confidence when it came to writing their argument. But we still had to define cancel culture for some of them. And so we wanted to build context for them. Actually, before I go there, let me show the videos. That's what we're saying. Let me, the video, this is the culmination of the video project here. So we'll go here, and here's a sample. Actually, we'll go this one.
Media is overrated because people don't use it correctly. People will be mean on social media, and they will post the stupidest stuff. Like there's social media is so overrated because nobody's actually them on social media. And there's no point of following somebody on social media just to like pictures of them being fake and stuff that they're not actually doing or they're not actually enjoying. Social media is overrated because it can be addicting and people can get really obsessive over it. And cyberbullying is insanely easy and it can be done almost completely anonymously. And you'll never find out who did it if they don't want you to.
They said, this is a typical teenager argument, right? And so let me get at another one, this one.
There's an epidemic facing the world. And no, it's not coronavirus. It feeds through anxious and broken people. And the symptoms are anxiety, depression, physical troubles, general toxicity, and more. The disease's name? Social media. Social media is overrated due to a multitude of factors, with each one contributing to the toxic environment created by it. Some of these factors include the physical and mental effects and burdens of social media on people, as well as the factors of information theft and content platforms not getting the credit that they deserve.
Social media is overused so much now that many apps have lost their fame and popularity due to others rising up, but some deserve more than to be forgotten. A very surprising fact is that on many social media platforms like Twitter or Instagram, the people who have the most followers, hundreds and thousands of them, those followers or likes on their pictures can actually be bought for pretty cheap, and they can even be hacked into if they're like hackers. So basically the amount of followers a person has or the amount of likes their picture has does not fully account for how popular they actually are or how many people they know, because they can be fake. Some apps that have
What I want to show is these videos were on Flipgrid. Flipgrid now you can upload different clips from different kids in different places to create one video. So these are actually about 10-minute videos, and I just put a couple slices for you to see. Let me put did I lose it? Okay, let me one more here, and then we're good. Play.
Between social media and poor mental health is concerningly strong, considering how greatly it's embedded into American culture and our daily life. We've changed the way we communicate and interact. Accordingly, our brains react to that change, and it's proven to negatively affect our minds. Scientists have linked social media sites like Facebook with depression. When scrolling through a timeline, adolescents are almost guaranteed to see a perfect face, body, family, or life that they lack. People immediately compare themselves to the perfect qualities showcased by others on social media, and when their own qualities tend to be subpar, they are hard on themselves, and that leads into depression. The dangers of social media and false realities creates an increased risk for anxiety. Lastly, but certainly not least, the increase in social media use simultaneously increases with suicide rate.
All right. And so let me go back to the slides. All right, let me, whoops. Here I am. All right. All right. So, the important thing here is we like to do projects. Sometimes it's one pager, sometimes it's video, sometimes it's, and in every case, it reinforces the skills. Our units are moving fast. They're moving sometimes 8 to 10 days, and we're on to the next unit. So anytime we do any kind of these projects, it's always building the skills of the essay. It's always building the skills of the argument. Okay. Let's see, next slide. All right, so now this is what I was talking about is that we got into cancel culture now, and it's helping, and it's building the context of kids understanding what cancel culture is. So we have, Debbie showed you earlier some introductory video clips, a really funny clip from the New York Times on cancel culture in the Middle Ages. But one of the effective ones I could tell that the students learned from was a podcast from the New York Times. Here, let me share for a second my screen. And see if you can see this here. Can you see the New York Times here or no? All right. I'm not sure if this is sharing. This is new for, yeah, you can. Okay, so let me go back to that. This is a New York Times podcast, and we listen to, it's a two-part, it's really good. We listen to only 24 minutes of it. The good thing about it is we have a transcript for this daily podcast. And this had, went into detail of 5 different or more incidences of cancel culture. They were political, they were for pop culture, and they were in everyday society going on right now, and even literary examples of cancel culture, which I saw that the students explored in their essays as well, about adding their own. So let me not share. Okay. We also had them read, an important text. Every unit, we'd like to get a substantial text. This one was from The Atlantic, and there's links for it. Debbie showed an image of it, and it's how capitalism drives cancel culture. And we had an annotation / highlighting assignment. This is actually one of Debbie's students who did this one. And what we do with you can see the color codes is early on, we get them to look at an article and see if you can spot what is evidence and see if you can spot what is analysis or commentary. So that's the highlights that you see in front of you there. And if early on we can get kids to do that in their reading, it doesn't take long for them to do it really well in their writing, where when they're writing the arguments of the synthesis or the rhetorical analysis, they're having evidence with lots of commentary. And so early on, this is a nice exercise to do this with text. All right, so now we go to the prompt for the cancel culture. All right. I give Debbie the credit for this one. She came up with the idea when we were going, what can we do as a summative essay for this unit about social media? And she came up with cancel culture. And it reads both long and short. If you're doing the long way, it gives a quote from a professor of philosophy on racist speech. And then you get a comment from Ricky Gervais, the creator of The Office. He's pretty much stating that, The Office could not be done in 2020. They would get canceled quickly. All right. And, let me read what he says. I think now it would suffer because people take things literally. There are these outrage mobs who take things out of context. This was a show about everything. It was about difference. It was about sex, race, all the things that people fear to even be discussed and talked about now in case they say the wrong thing and they're canceled. Okay. And that's it. Go next one over. There's more information about the different types of cancel culture. I looked at this document with my students before we did the write. And then the day of the write, I modeled it more on what an argument prompt looks like these days. I had the Ricky Gervais quote, and the prompt is, it's a little off there. It should read, write an essay that argues your position on the issue of cancel culture. Use your readings, your observations, experiences to support your position. And so there you have it. The students were, they were lined up both ways. There were people who were just like Debbie's opening quotes. There were people that were just fine with cancel culture. They really, they thought, reading the students' responses, they thought that it gives people who traditionally have not had power. But I'd say maybe a little bit more than the majority stated that they had problems with it, and they stated their position. Some of them qualified it, and some of them said, no, it's not a good thing. It's the wrong thing, just like the person in Debbie's quotes had. All right. So let me start with, a talk on thesis. This is early on, Unit 2, and I'm of the, I'm of the position that I like my students to write idea-driven thesis statements. I've weaned them off those the device-driven thesis. I mean, some of them want to do that. That's the way they were taught, even still. But I think I try to show them that they can go deeper with an idea-driven thesis. I had the fortune to be a question leader this year on the it was a prompt on the Daniel Inouye's speech about what was happening in 1968 that pretty much mirrored what was happening in 2020 in our world. And when I saw kids write the chicken foot and the device thesis, I thought their arguments, for the most part, were limited by that. And where students write idea-driven thesis, they open it up to so much more. And I also tell them, you don't have to necessarily use 3 points. You can do a good job with 2 ideas and go deep and narrow. This particular one has the 3. This student is, you can see that one of the ideas that they say that is, they start with a counter argument in their thesis. Although cancel culture makes influencers more aware of what is offensive and makes people have to take responsibility for their actions, cancel culture is a toxic form of bullying that disseminates hateful information because people tear down someone they've never met without having to face the repercussions, comma. It gives a voice to hateful people and fosters an environment characterized by bullying, comma, that's the second point, and someone's life could be immediately ruined. And you see the line of reasoning where the students are going to develop it. Like I said, I'm trying to wean them now of 3 and maybe go 2 and go deeper. So the next thing is early on to get, one of the things we focus on is get them to write definitely more analysis, more commentary than they do evidence. Get yourself good evidence, but have more commentary. And so what you have here is you can see the line of reasoning in white, the evidence in light blue, and their analysis or their commentary in yellow. I'm having them do that tomorrow, actually, with some essays as they're rewriting the essays. But more importantly, and this is one I've been debating in my head. Do I teach the kids to score the sophistication points, to know what they are and to go for them? Or do I just want them to write well and naturally they may get the sophistication points? All right. Last year, this came to me in the just before we got sent home for COVID. My classes, we were studying a Jelani Cobb analysis of the movie Black Panther. And the article naturally was full of a lot of tension. And the kids picked up of it and wrote about it and wrote about the tension. And they scored the sophistication point for tension. As a reader this summer, I have to say that I think as a community of readers and teachers, we're not there yet. The new test came in COVID time. And I don't think we trained an awful lot on how to teach students or how to even teach teachers to spot tension and complexity. When the year started, I didn't see many samples. I think I only saw one College Board sample that had tension. It was an argument prompt about that capitalism is overrated. So I knew that we needed to do work. And as a reader on a question this summer, I only saw, for the most part, readers giving a sophistication point for what we traditionally give for style points, really well written, or for, I think we could do in the first year, the rhetorical situation that a student addresses rhetorical situation. And then I realized there are some points that the students naturally get in the argument prompt and the synthesis prompt. That has to do with situating an argument in a broader context and finding tension and complexity. So that's what I started to see in this writing. And I won't read it to you, but here this student writes about the tension that happened when the Dixie Chicks stated their views. This is back when they on President Bush, and then the student explores that issue as far as cancel culture, as you can see. It's also done for the broader context that we have here. You know, the students would look for something on the outside to compare the cancel culture, to make a connection, a comparison. And that's done well here. Look at all the commentary that the students learned to write. So it's mostly a commentary there. Here, sometimes I tell the students, I bring out some pink, or in the case of computer, fuchsia colors. And if they want to tell me, hey, I got this point, right? Don't miss it, Barrera. They'll put a fuchsia highlight there. And here they discuss some of the tension that happens with this cancel culture. Of course, I learned so much about James Charles the last couple of years, right? I knew nothing about him, but they've made me my teachers, the students taught me about the issues with James Charles, all right, and other things, all right. But that's an example, you know, how we took the essay and how we score the essay, all right. So Debbie, you there?
I am. And
All right,
my camera back on too.
there
So
you go.
what we thought we would do now is answer any questions if you all have them. And I put the Google Drive folder in the chat. So if anybody wants the materials, feel free to take them. Please do not post them on a public blog though, because you know, we are curriculum writers. I am a curriculum writer. And so sometimes I take my stuff and I actually publish them. And so this is a lesson that is published already. So if we would appreciate it if you used our materials just to, you know, put them in your Google Classroom or your learning management system, but do not put them out there for the world to see because, you know, we publish our materials. So at this point, we'll take questions. And I answered already some things in the Q&A. Yes, this semester, both of us are doing a one semester course. So we have a rotation, and I might actually put that in the folder for you guys. I put this on Christy's AP Lang site back in August when I developed it, but it shows that we kind of rotate units about every 6 days. So that's why we're already on unit 5. And we do start the unit with the PPC sort of as a pretest. And then we go through the unit, and then we find a passage that's in the questions on AP Classroom, and we have that as the post test to see how they're doing it. So we are already through 5 sections of the PPCs, and also we've done a practice test as well with our students. So it's pretty quick. And then each one, in addition to a writing piece, we also do, as Carlos mentioned, an alternative piece. And so that's why we did a 1-pager, or we did the visual essay, or we do Socratic seminar, or we do, in the case of the cooking one, I'm doing a blog. Carlos, what are you doing? You're doing a recipe book? I forgot what. What are you doing for food?
Oh, no, with food, I took I veered off and did food in Gatsby. That's what we were doing this week. So.
Oh, right, chapter 3. Yeah. So
Yeah.
even though we're kind of following the same pacing chart, we've made it so we both can play to our strengths, and we can kind of veer off and do some things by ourselves. I do a semester-long project. And I do NoRedInk, and I do vocabulary.com, and Carlos does some other things that his school has him doing. So we sort of follow the same timeline to get all 9 units in, and then we kind of veer off as we interest and as we need them. So we have a question, and it says, Carlos, you said that you push your students to write an idea-driven thesis for the cancel culture essay. What is the difference between an idea-driven thesis versus the device-driven thesis? Isn't a device-driven thesis only possible for rhetorical analysis?
Yeah, I think well, it's not device. You're right about that. But I also see that, and maybe this comes from history writing, that when you write the thesis and argument, it's like these 3 words, the concept of this, without really expressing the idea. They list 3 things they're going to talk about without really stating an idea. Cancel culture I'm making this up, as it's related to Hollywood, hip hop music and social media, bop, like that. So that tends, I would see that. I'm like, why don't you like give it more of a preview or more of an idea that with more punch for that than just listing 3 things. So I know you see it in rhetorical analysis, but I've seen it in argument as well, just 3 things that put in like that. Does that make sense?
I'm putting in the questions right now, our schedule. So our district is doing a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, where we see the kids right now remotely, but November 5th, we go back to the Zoomers and the Roomers. So we'll have people in front of us and then people remote, and then talk to us then, see how we do it. I know a lot of you are doing that already, and it's a challenge. Yeah, so, and I just wanted to share some of our other units. So unit 1 was, we did Madeleine Albright. So we started the year, we call it Compelling Voices. And so we studied Madeleine Albright's text as a mentor text. And then we ended with John Lewis's speech that he did shortly before he died as their summative.
I'll add that we did a recent Madeleine Albright text for the essay, not the, we taught with the speech, but we taught with her essay on resilience.
Yeah.
That alluded to this
from
COVID.
April 2020. Yeah. And then, so unit 3 was the synthesis, and we did, what did we do? I can't remember.
In synthesis, we did the idea of eminent domain.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Went further.
Oh, and monuments. So we pulled back an old prompt, monuments. And so we started with eminent domain and used that as the teaching material, and then had them write, they had to create something called a pecha kucha, which is a Japanese slideshow of 20 seconds for each slide, and you can only get 20 slides. And so that was another group activity, and they had to make a case for who should select monuments, what monuments should be present in society, and why. So it was fun to kind of update that, considering you know, some of the monuments that were pulled down this summer, and some of the monuments that people are erecting these days. That was a really fun one. And so, like I said, we're doing food right now. Next one we're doing is songs, is music. And then we're doing, we did Benjamin Banneker and Hamilton together. So we're just really trying to, you know, hit our home runs and do the best work we can with our kids. So do we have any more questions? Let me go back to the chat. Let's see. Okay, so we don't have any, we have another question. Okay, did you refer to the monument prompt in the cancel culture unit as well? That would be a cool connection. We did monuments as number 3, and we did cancel culture as number 2. And yes, it did come back up. So the kids used the sources that they had read for cancel culture when they were creating their pecha kuchas for the monuments. Yeah.
One of the pieces that did that really well, and the students used a lot of these in my pecha kuchas, is we did Kehinde Wiley's Rumor of War. It's an African American on a battle horse. It's in Times Square for a while, and now it's in Virginia. And the students really like that a lot. The idea of putting an African American with dreadlocks as a monument to replace the monuments that were taken down in Virginia.
Yeah. So it's been very fun collaborating with Carlos because he likes my stuff.
Yeah.
And a way that you can get into contact with us is I'm on Twitter, and I'm DLAUGHEY. So you can follow me on Twitter. And I'm one of those people, I don't post a lot on Twitter, but I do I do share things a lot on Twitter. So things that I see in my Twitter feed that I like, I'll share it. But I would love to communicate with you all. And then, you can find us posting frequently in AP Lang, although we haven't done it as much because we are like you, we are incredibly overwhelmed right now with just trying to teach our classes. What are some Carlos, this is another question for you. What are some strategies that you use to get students to write more in-depth commentary for their argument essays?
Yeah, all right. One of them, I sometimes flip I flip a Socratic seminar just before the essay. And I come up with 3 questions for the Socratic seminar that the groups will discuss that fit the prompt for writing. So early on, they talk it out. They talk it out, and they take notes. And early on, I allow them to bring those notes to the argument. Then they get the full prompt the next day. And I think that has helped. This is what the students are telling me. It helps to talk it out and to see it first, to have them write it. Second, is this is an old-fashioned one, is they're always looking at models. And I use the highlighters. I take some of the old prompts. Like, for example, with Madeleine Albright, we purposely used the Mount Holyoke one as models. I went to the type samples that they have out there, and I color coded them, and they got to see the amount of commentary. And so when they did their own Madeleine Albright, which was not the same passage, it helped. It's almost like, I would ask them, how'd you learn to dance like that? And they finally come up and tell me by watching people. So that's another way of doing of extending commentary, getting it better, looking at it and talking it out. Okay.
Yeah. Any more questions or comments in the chat? Okay. So we have a little time left. So we thought we might show a couple of these great sources, and then we'll keep monitoring the chat. Okay. So this was a great question. And the question is, how do you handle timed write from students who are remote? So what I do is I'll give them the prompt, and then 40 minutes later, they have to post their draft in a Microsoft Office form. So I get a timestamp on it. And then I will do a quick check, and I'll score it on the 1 through 6 rubric, and then give them a little bit of feedback. And then I give them the opportunity to revise it in turnitin.com. So that's the way I do it. Carlos, how do you do it?
Yeah, I have, we're using turnitin.com, so they know to post it in there. I'm trying to get them used to the idea that they're going to type the essay most likely in May. And so they have to get it uploaded by a certain time. So I put a timestamp on there. I'm gentle in the beginning, by easier than Debbie is, in that, maybe in the beginning I'm doing 50 minutes and then slowly wean it down to the 40. I usually don't do a summative as a timed write. It's a formative. Then we might later take that same formative and write a more polished essay for the summative grade. But yeah, it's a motivating factor. I'm gentle with them. I'm telling them, all the time, trying to fill them full of confidence. They're great right now. There isn't a person in any of the Lang classes not doing well. Some of them really like the Zoom business, but they're doing the time writes.
One thing I'm experimenting with right now is No-Red Ink has a free version, and they recently added a peer review. And I know there are other peer review. We use the Springboard books, and I know there's some kind of a writing program there as well. I just haven't had time to investigate it. But the peer review for No-Red Ink only allows students to post 500 words. And so I'm having them post only their body paragraphs or one body paragraph. And so they post a body paragraph, and then they get anonymous peer feedback about that. And then they have to have their revision. So they highlight their topic sentence, and then they highlight their evidence and their commentary. Then they get 3 anonymous peer reviews about what they wrote. and then they have revision. And then as a teacher, I can see side by side, if I click on both of them, what their original piece was and then what kind of stuff they added in. So I'm giving them the grade on how much they revised. And then another thing I'm doing is for the essays, the timed writes, if they score low, if they choose to revise the paper, and most of them do, is they have to write a paragraph at the beginning of their essay for turnitin.com explaining to me what I'm looking for. So if they added to their thesis, or if they elaborated with more details or added in an extra body paragraph. So I'm reading for what they tell me that they did, and that actually helps me grade and helps me look at their draft that would be on the Microsoft Office form, and then the Turnitin piece, and see how much they've grown as a writer. So they're not just doing like a spell check and calling it a day. So I want to see kind of some metacognitive thinking about what they're doing, and then I want them to be able to tell me what they were doing.
I'll add that the more you can get the kids to rework their essays. Tomorrow they're going to write a document for me of what changes they made from their first draft to their second draft. The better they'll build their instincts to be able to tackle the new AP multiple choice questions, because all those AP multiple choice questions, the new style ones, have to do with revision and rewriting. And it's a case of, if you know how to rewrite, you're going to have the instincts to answer those questions correctly, which are now half the questions on the test.
Yeah. So, all right. So Carlos, you want to go back and just show one or two of the sources?
Okay. I think we can't click on can we click on the slide and get to the link, or do I need to share my, let me share my screen and get the practice with cancel culture document that has all the links that work.
Okay.
Okay. And that way I can show them that this exists in the handouts too. Okay. So I'm going to do the share screen. Okay. Share. And you're not paying attention to my messy
I don't see it.
you don't see it? Good. All right. It is, wow.
Go to share
Oh, I
screen.
got it. I got
Yeah.
it. I got it. Cancel. Filter. Cancel. Culture. There. And then it is, oh no, I'm sorry.
Mine's frozen.
Yeah, this is my usual messing up of the I'll get there, I promise. Okay.
It's okay.
It's getting it. Cancel culture, where are you? That's cancel culture notes. That's not the same thing. And they updated my Windows here, and it doesn't.
It's okay. We put it in the Google Drive folder.
It's in the Google. Yeah, it's in the Google Drive. There's so many things.
And I'll post that calendar too, because I think that'll help people, especially if you're on a shortened semester like we are. And what we'll do next semester is we'll just add an extra day or two in. So we're still going to do the 9 units, and we're still going to rotate the way we're doing it. But instead of like a 5-day cycle, we'll probably do a 7-day cycle to get all 9 of the units in. Well, my screen is frozen. I don't know about yours, Carlos. So I think that
All right.
wrote.
Let me do that. What's our time? 8:20. So we're
Yeah.
good. All right. Yeah, that was I didn't have that one ready. I thought it was on my desktop, but it's in my lesson folder. And that would have taken me a bit to find it. So
Yeah. So since my screen is frozen, I can't do anything. But if you have any questions, just communicate with us. Both of us are our first name and last name, Deborah.ahi@cobbk12.org. That's our school. Carlos.barrera@cobbk12.org. Or, you can find me on Twitter. I'm around, or you can message me on Facebook. All right. So, and if you, like I said, I'll even put in a blank spot in the Google Drive, and if you have any extra questions, you can ask them there and we'll try to answer them. All right. So great to see everybody. I hope that you got something out of the unit, and I hope that you guys will be doing some cancel culture.